Next up, we have our second DeFi panel for the day. This one is titled, How DeFi is Building a New Tech Stack. Our panelists will be discussing whether in DeFi we're seeing the new evolution of a Web3 stack or a change in how we view tech stacks in general through the use of blockchain. We're being moderated today by Ryan Adams of Bankless.
Why don't you start, Asaf? So we're really excited about this panel, everyone. As Andrew said, this is about the evolution of this new DeFi web stack that we are creating. And I'm super excited about this panel. I think we're going to dive into what that web stack is, define it a little bit, go through it, talk about how it's evolving. So why don't we start? We've got 4 incredible panelists here. Why don't we start with Asaf? Can you just tell us a little bit in like 20 seconds or so about yourself and what you're doing?
Yeah, so my name is Asaf. I'm GM at the protocol team at Bancor Network. Started off as a head of a product several years ago and built the product alongside with the founders and team members. Bancor was the first AMM solution on blockchain. And it's here to really solve a critical issue. Initially, it was designed to solve a critical issue of bid and ask. And now we see a massive evolution of AMM and a massive explosion of it. And it's like very exciting times in DeFi and finance in this blockchain level. So
awesome. Yeah. Great to have you. Samyak, why don't we continue with you?
Yeah, hello, I'm Samyak. I'm co-founder and CTO of InstaDapp. So what we are doing is we are aggregating different protocols, removing complexities for the users and helping users to optimize their assets at the best way possible.
Fantastic. Hilmar.
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Ryan. I'm Hilmar. This is Pünktchen, my dog. I should introduce her as well.
You should. Well done.
I should, yeah. And yeah, I work on a project called Gelato. And from a technical perspective, Gelato is a protocol to automate smart contract executions on Ethereum. And basically a bit less technical, what it does, it's like an infrastructure piece developers can use to turn their products. For example, if you have some collateral on one lending protocol and you want to refinance it to the next one, you can basically automate that process on behalf of your users and have it be based on some conditions that change. For example, if the interest rates, the transaction can be executed automatically on behalf of the users.
Excellent. Thanks, Hilmar. You were breaking up a little bit near the end, but you're talking about your automation protocol. We'll get into that for sure. We have one last panelist who has not yet joined us, but when Gilles does, he's from a company called iExec that is building a decentralized cloud. Gilles, you're not here, are you? Okay, I think he will be joining us momentarily, and when he does, we will introduce him as well. But what I think we have are multiple pieces of the DeFi tech stack represented. So we've got an automated market maker, we've got an automation protocol, and we've got a DeFi management interface overlay, and also a decentralized cloud. You know, I think we should start panelists with a little bit of definition. When we talk about the DeFi tech stack, what are we actually talking about? What is this DeFi tech stack? It uses the layer of the internet, but it adds some pieces to it. Samyak, why don't we start with you with some definition here of the DeFi tech stack?
So I would say DeFi tech stack to be like, I mean, there are a lot of stacks combining together to make the whole DeFi work. So the base layer would be Ethereum, then the protocols like MakerDAO, Compound, and then there are the mid layer, I would say protocols or platforms just like us, InstaDapp, Argent, or others, and then there goes the final user-facing application. I still think like the DeFi is very complex, but I mean there are all of these together combining, they make the whole DeFi tech stack. And yeah, each has their own role, and everything is like everyone is very important for the end user to use the whole DeFi easily or perfectly, whatever.
So Samyak is saying there's basically this base layer of Ethereum at the bottom, and on top of that, we've got lending borrowing protocols, and then we have this kind of this aggregator type layer, this user interface type layer. Asaf, is that how you see it? What else would you add to that?
The way we see it at Bancor is that blockchain level is a layer. So you've mentioned the Ethereum. So Ethereum is one option, but there are multiple options out there. Maybe not as popular at this time and not as successful, but we do see evolution of more layers or more infrastructures layers like this. And then on top of this, we have smart contract solutions as the AMM infrastructure, Bancor, also Maker, as you mentioned, it's very based on smart contract infrastructure. And then on top of this, there's a lot of user interfaces that connecting all the dots and making it user-friendly. I think this is like the three layers that we see in the ecosystem, in the blockchain, actually.
Excellent. So Hilmar, you are working on a project that's actually stringing together all of these pieces, going between these pieces, helping to automate some of these building blocks and these components. We've used the term money Legos before to kind of describe it in a colorful way. Can you tell us a little bit about money Legos and about the automation and about how protocols can work between these different layers of the stack and integrate various pieces together?
Yeah, so I think I completely agree with Asaf and Samyak in regards to their layer definition. What I would add to it is kind of like two more layers or that are kind of similar, or like one layer is similar to the application layer, which is first of all the asset layer, where you basically have these tokens, these non-fungible tokens that are kind of not that settlement layer or like blockchain layer specific, right? You have, for example, Tether that moves from Omni to Ethereum and is basically there on multiple protocols at the same time. And then you have this infrastructure layer as well that I think is kind of like at the side of the whole stack, which is basically, for example, Chainlink, which provides these price feeds, for example, or data feeds on chain on Ethereum, but probably also soon on other layer ones. And for example, what these projects like Chainlink do, or in Gelato we have a similar approach. You can kind of package these external services into small like money Legos or DeFi bricks, and kind of like provide them on Ethereum, all the applications on top, on all the UIs on top, the aggregators on top that can plug into that. And for example, what we do is we basically provide you with a money Lego where you can schedule transactions and automate certain things on behalf of your users. And this is just as simple as having this open API that you can plug into and everyone can plug into on Ethereum at the moment, because we are only on Ethereum, but potentially at some time later on any network, basically. And you basically have this tangent infrastructure layer, I think, which is also in this stack somewhere.
Excellent. Okay.
Can I add a few points?
Yes.
So just, on the DeFi tech stack that I explained, I'll also add Gelato, like on top of us after InstaDapp Argent. There is another layer of Gelato, which uses the smart wallets and all these like smart InstaDapp, Argent, Genesis, or other smart wallet as a layer, and builds automation tools on top of it. So yeah, there is another layer of it.
All right, excellent. And we keep building these new layers now. Gilles, it's great to have you. I know you are from iExec, and there's maybe one piece of the layer that we haven't talked about, which is the storage layer, the decentralized storage layer. Can you talk about maybe that and like how that fits in the DeFi stack that was just defined?
Yes, you're right. The more important all those DeFi applications are going to be, they will need to have access to many off-chain computing resources. So as you mentioned, storage is one. That's probably not the only one. They will also need to have access to more computing power and this kind of things. So I think that in this DeFi stack, the off-chain computing layer is extremely important. This is typically where iExec and Chainlink are positioned. And basically those applications, they will need an off-chain computing layer for several reasons. One is connectivity, so typically Oracle to fetch outside information. One that is probably interoperability, and you see that they often need to have sidechain access or even access to a different blockchain. Like for instance, the Bitcoin tokens, typically you need some sort of interoperability between Bitcoin and Ethereum. And of course, scalability, because there is those issues for all these transactions, but also if you need to execute large smart contracts, then you can execute them off-chain, for instance. And I think the last reason is privacy. So typically, that's an important reason. Typically, you don't want to have everything on-chain because some information can be private, can be confidential. And in this case, off-chain computing is a way to hide those data and not disclose them on-chain.
Okay, so I think viewers probably have a much clearer picture of what the DeFi stack looks like. Asaf, I want to ask you this question. So why do we need the DeFi stack? We have the internet stack already. It does lots of things. People can log into their bank account if they wish using just the internet. Why do we need this whole separate DeFi stack? What does it deliver that the original internet did not?
So, there are a lot of different ideas behind it. I can start with really like the Bancor view originally on this point. Bancor was involved in community currency solutions. We came from an area where we were trying to find ways for communities and individuals or individual groups to create their own financial system that is almost detached, but it's not completely detached from the monetary system. And that was not doable. Also, we realized that bid-ask is not really working in small-scale communities in that aspect. So unless you go to a community or to a country level, when the monetary system is well, it's oiled up with all these like incentive structures and utilities. On a smaller scale, bid-ask doesn't work, and that kind of led us into finding a way where you can create a new monetary system without being restricted by countries or boundaries in that sense, which allows you to really spin up a new currency for a small group of individuals and have it accessible and traded without the issues of bid-ask system. So this is really the premise, the beginning of AMM as we started the conversation around it. We took it into the blockchain because blockchain gave us the freedom and flexibility to really make it happen. It was user-generated content and financial systems, so that's like really like the grassroots element behind it. And eventually, what we've seen in blockchain also is that it allows the creation of a lot of long-tail tokens and assets by groups or individuals, and they were really hitting the same difficulties of bid-ask systems as we've seen before. So kind of like it's taking this community currency aspect into blockchain and allowing freedom of individuals and individual groups to create their own monetary system within this ecosystem. So that's where blockchain kind of hits the mark from our perspective.
Okay, so openness, maybe access, freedom were some of the terms and concepts that you used. Hilmar, is that what this is about? Is DeFi about like an open internet native system where we can't build very well, we can't create money Legos out of our existing traditional system? Is it this openness, this freedom to experiment and create money that makes DeFi special and different?
I think it basically plays a major role in it, and I think DeFi is very specific, right? DeFi, we kind of coin all these financial related applications, and I think what is great for especially these financial, and I put DAOs now aside as non kind of DeFi related, but more like general dApps. I think what for me as a developer, what DeFi kind of is special and different to the usual stack is that I can basically, or anyone can just create a bank, like they could just create a website a couple of years ago. They can just npm install this lending protocol, npm install this Oracle solution, npm install smart contract waters from InstaDapp, for example, and then they can build up their own financial product within days, and they can leverage existing audited pieces and kind of combine them in new arbitrary ways. And we've seen that with all these recent YAM finances and Yearn and all these stuff. They just combine existing stuff, they mix it together. It's more like an art really than a science. It's just basically your creativity is your limit. And I think that's the amazing part that kind of this Web3 stack or this DeFi stack enables you to do.
So it almost resembles the magic of kind of the early internet, right? The ability to spin up an asset the way you'd spin up a website. Samyak, you are building a user interface on top of all of these things. So you get to kind of work to stitch them together to help a user actually use them. But it's not all good stuff, right? I mean, we talked a lot about the magic of DeFi, but can you tell us about some of the the hard parts about developing on DeFi?
Hard parts about developing on DeFi. I mean, I would say, like, considering the traditional finance system, DeFi, developing on DeFi is way more it's permissionless and it's way more open. So it's considerably easy because we could have never been able to build InstaDapp on traditional finance because of all the restrictions, and it's a financial field, so KYC and government restrictions, and to go global, it's not possible. So I would say, like, on the developing side, DeFi, it's just like the internet. Like, before internet, the money system was like, to transact money, it's way difficult. Then internet made it so simple, like you can just transfer money with just a tap of on the screens. You can just build cool things and stuff. And same is on DeFi. Like, it's a one layer up, which made the development much more simpler. And now, like, if we want to, like, integrate Maker, I mean, they can't stop us. If we want to integrate Compound, they can't stop us. If Gelato wants to use us, we can't stop him. So I mean, it basically it has made the whole development so simple, I would say.
So Samyak is basically saying that, look, it's all good. He wouldn't have even been able to develop and build the app that he put out on the traditional financial system. Just would not have been possible. That said, it's not all goodness, right? We've heard so much about smart contract hacks and like the work that needs to be put into making this possible, and user experience when gas fees are crazy. Yeah. As DeFi developers, each of you have to account for those things. Gilles, why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the challenges that the challenges in developing something on top of this new stack?
Me?
Let's take, well, who has something? Who wants to talk about challenges? Just raise your hand. Who's got something to say that's like the ugly side of this?
It's like everyone, right?
Yeah. Probably. Let me jump to
Ethereum, right?
Let me jump to Hilmar first. You said everyone. What are some of the challenges?
I think everyone who tried to integrate multiple protocols or work with smart contracts before, it's not as straightforward as it seems, and also to kind of get a smart contract system into production that doesn't kind of stand on its own, but interacts with multiple other ones, and we are such protocol that it's just like it lives from other protocols that it interacts with, and it's just a pain in the ass, frankly, to test all these protocols into one kind of local environment. You have to fork them from mainnet. You have to redeploy them yourself. From a developer point of view, it's a big overhead, and I think that's also why the market for auditors is just so crazy right now, and the demand is so crazy because it's very hard to test these things. I think if we make the tools that would enable us to test all of these systems properly before deploying easier and cheaper, I think we would save a lot of money that goes just to people that kind of do everything manually at the moment. And I also think smart contract hacks is not really the ugly side anymore, because how much money do we have locked in DeFi now? Like 8 billion or something like that. Yeah. And these lending protocols like Aave, they have alone like billions, I think, locked up. And this kind of proves to me if there's smart contracts that hold over $1 billion worth of assets, then I think they can also hold 100 billion or trillions worth of assets. It's like from there, it doesn't it's proven that it works. And so the smart contract risk from existing contracts is not the difficult part, but building new things, combining these things together, the testing there, this is really complex and hard.
All right, and maybe part of that is we don't have the developer tools yet. Is that the case? Mm-hmm. We're so early.
I think there are a lot of there are some tools, but they are quite imperfect, and there are people like Nomad Labs that build Bidler. This is like a development tool. They're doing an amazing job, but they have limited resources. They live from grants from the Ethereum Foundation, right? So they don't have a business model. So the whole industry kind of relies on them. And for example, they released the new package like yesterday that finally allowed us to verify our contracts on chain, which we weren't able to do because like this bytecode thing is just too complex. And so we just verified them today because some guys in Argentina pushed the code, luckily. So we are kind of relied on them, and they don't have a business model. They are relying on grants at the moment. So it's difficult.
Got it. Yeah, that is definitely the ugly side. Anyone else have a take on why this stuff is hard right now?
Yeah, I mean, the Hilmar, he said like Aave contract stores like billions of dollars, and so it can easily store billions, hundreds of billions and trillions. But another thing is like all the protocols are so interconnected. So basically, if Aave fails, Curve fails, Yearn Finance fails. I mean, it's like everything needs to be super protected. So yeah, I mean, that is also, you can say, a dark side. Like if a protocol is used too much and if it fails, maybe with a bad governance decision or anything, then it can ruin the whole chain.
I think skeptics have called this
a very scary situation, right?
Yeah. I think skeptics have called this like it's not money Legos. It's more like money Jenga, right? And you just like pull something out and the whole thing collapses. Asaf, what did you want to say on this?
So I think, if not everything is bad as you started off with. First of all, in the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen like a massive development in different tools and structures. So today, when you come in and you want to create an application, Hilmar mentioned it, you don't need to reinvent everything from scratch. You don't need to build everything from scratch. You can take this and that and kind of mix and match together and spin it up as you wish. So there are more tools and devices that can help you develop into the ecosystem. I think the end result from our perspective and the way I see it is that, you try to work very hard and you try to create the best user experience eventually for the clients and the users coming in, but then they hit fiat on-ramps and off-ramps that are not really there. They hit gas prices which create transactions to be $20, $30, and $100 worth, which all of a sudden, like this money Lego that you speak of, the DeFi adoption, that's going to reevaluate or redesign finance as we know it. All of a sudden, transferring funds from one account to another costs you $20. That's not really the new financial system that I was looking for. So these challenges exist in the ecosystem, and I think what we need to understand is that we are in it almost together in a sense. That no matter if I work and as hard as I can and I create the best protocol ever, eventually I need Ethereum to perform, and I need InstaDapp to perform, and I need all the systems around me to perform at their best in order to really bring the new audiences, the new customers in, because otherwise it's just a closed garden. We have this X amount of users using DeFi, and it's going crazy and it's massive, but it's still like 0. whatever % of the financial world that we know. And unless we kind of make more bridges and make it more adoptable, it's not going to really succeed as we want it to. So I think this is one of the major challenges is working together and kind of bringing it into mainstream.
We do have to solve this as an ecosystem, as a DeFi ecosystem. Gilles, so I want to get your perspective here on some of the unsolved problems. Maybe you could comment on some of the unsolved problems that Asaf mentioned, gas fees and scalability and user interface, but there are others as well. What are some of the outstanding problems that we have now? And what do you see as the future solutions that the ecosystem is on the cusp of coming out with?
Yeah, there is an excellent question. There is one issue that I would really like to point out because I think it's a little bit underestimated, is the issue of privacy and confidentiality. So at the moment, you have many DeFi applications that are both on-chain. So that's typically the case for non-custodial wallet. You have some of the things that are on-chain, plus you have some user private information that are stored in whatever database, centralized, etc. So this kind of a hybrid system, it's a little bit like, playing with a match or a barrel of dynamite. It's super dangerous because if the private information leaks, It's everything that is on-chain that is going to be exposed to everyone. At the moment, so far, we have been very lucky, but I feel that for DeFi, confidentiality and user privacy is really a huge problem. The good news is that...
Are we fixing that? Is there anything in the queue to fix
so
that's
typically things we are working on. So, for instance, we're using a lot, confidential computing, and typically what we are looking at is solutions where you could put your private information encrypted, like available through IPFS, for instance, and then we offer like a solution that allows application to access those information without revealing it to everyone. So typically you have your cell phone number, you encrypt that, you send that to IPFS, and then if a wallet like Argent, for instance, wants to send you an OTP, then goes through an application that uses this phone number without revealing it. So I think that there are solutions, and for me, that's one of the main challenges about DeFi, confidentiality.
What is so cool about this is each of you are, in an uncoordinated way, almost coming up with these solutions like on your own, right? So a little bit of the solution comes from one team, a little bit comes from another team, and we're all building this together. We have, I think, about 3 minutes left. And since this is the Smart Contract Chainlink Summit, one of the problems that the DeFi stack has had for a very long time is actually getting price feed data, getting Oracle data, information from outside in the real world to main chain. Can some of you talk about how you're using oracles like Chainlink in your systems today? Who wants to start with that question?
I can, if no one else volunteers.
Go for it, Hilmar.
So Chainlink is super useful, and for us, basically, it provides, so Gelato is basically just like the system that, based on any condition that you have on chain, will execute any action on behalf of the user, right? So, and these conditions are basically like normally state, like interest rates or changing prices and stuff. And these conditions, if they change, they have to be trustworthy, that they kind of reflect the reality. And this is kind of where Chainlink comes into place quite nicely, because they provide verified on-chain prices that are not manipulatable. Or like another cool use case that a customer of us integrated lately was that you can kind of schedule transactions based on gas prices. So you can basically say, if the gas price is 50 Gwei, then please submit this transaction to this step. And basically the gas price on chain this is not something native in that the EVM provides you with, or Solidity provides you with. So it has to be fed in from the outside, and Chainlink kind of does it for us, for example.
Fantastic. All right, we might have time for one more. Does anyone else have
So we at Bancor, we also do the same thing. And I mentioned before, like with the bridges between the fiat world and the blockchain world. So we use Chainlink oracles as well as part of the AMM Bancor V2 solution, where we respond and adjust the ecosystem, or the AMM ecosystem we built based on Oracle updates from Chainlink. This kind of provides us with more accurate data to know how to respond to market changes, and providing a better solution for users eventually.
Very cool, guys. That is about the end of our panel time today. I hope listeners took away that the DeFi stack is it's here, it's new, it's evolving. We're about 10 years into Bitcoin, 5 years into Ethereum, but each of the teams, both on this call and then outside, everyone at the summit, is working to bring these solutions to main chain and to the market. We're all kind of hacking away as an ecosystem. So it's a very exciting time to be in DeFi. We are very glad that you joined us. Panelists, want to thank you very much for being a part of the Smart Contract Summit.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you very much.